Hello friends, welcome to the second installment of the Financial Planning Vicennial. Two quick things. First, why am I wearing red lipstick? The answer is that we are recording a skit for the Institute of Advanced Financial Planners Symposium. We're recording this Friday and I get to play June Cleaver. This is what the information is. Steve, 48, is on his second marriage with a much younger June Cleaver, 35. They don't have any children, but her biological clock is ticking loudly. I have no other information, but I figured I'll try and dress like a floozy, and hence the red lipstick. Awesome. So the second thing is that I have some other exciting news. I have been officially approved by the regulators for licensing as a portfolio manager. Many of you know how important that is for me and how much effort it's been to get here. So a shout out to our securities dealer, Align Capital Partners, for being so supportive during this process, and to all you amazing people for standing by my side through this adventure. Today, we are going to focus on financial planning priorities for age 56. To set the mood for the conversation, I want to introduce the idea of positive insecurity. There. Positive insecurity means motivating to secure a positive future rather than shaming to avoid a negative one. For a visual, this is a snapshot from a talk on forgiveness I did for MDRT in 2020. It was supposed to be pretty prestigious on stage in Anaheim in front of potentially hundreds of other advisors. But then, COVID, and so we filmed it from my dining room instead. The reason why it's important for me to help you understand the difference between negative insecurity and positive insecurity is that today's column isn't going to be like anything you've ever heard before. Financial planning for after your most isolating tragedy. Pre-COVID, the average age of widowhood in Canada was 56. So welcome to the Financial Planning Vicennial, topic age 56, planning for widowhood. Because of the emphasis on positive insecurity, we're just going to skip right over the conversation on life insurance or making sure you've saved enough or getting your wills updated. Once you're widowed, it'll be too late to make those decisions. So let's just assume that you are an intelligent human being who's already had those conversations, secured the insurance coverage you need, been a dedicated saver, your wills are updated, and you don't feel like being patronized right now. From a financial planning perspective, one of the simplest ways to make the transition to widowhood as smooth as possible is to get your house in order ahead of time. Here are 5 key things that you can do ahead of time together. Well, that sentence isn't right. Here are the 5 key things you can do together ahead of time. Item number 1. Consider making your bank accounts and your non-registered investment accounts joint. Merging accounts is not a taxable event, and it makes the process of re-individualizing after a loss a lot easier. Caution though that if an account came from an inheritance, you might want to refrain from commingling it with family assets so that matrimonial property laws can't touch it. Item number 2, buy a physical safe and stash all of your important documents in it. If you don't have room for a safe, consider an airtight container in the fridge just for essentials. Fun fact, fridges are not totally fireproof, but they almost are. Specifically, you should know where your birth certificates, marriage certificates, and any previous divorce documents are. Item number 3, start a cash flow binder and pay all of your bills together. Make good notes, try to record all of the recurring monthly bills and once per year bills like property insurance and life insurance premiums. A survivor needs to know how to be okay once they're on their own. Item number 4, get your own credit card. Credit is like a houseplant. You can both give the plant water, but each plant only has one stalk. For you to have a credit score, you need to both be maintaining a separate plant, even if you share a pot. If one spouse dies, the surviving spouse inherits the pot. Think of a mortgage. If one plant dies, the other plant doesn't get kicked out of the pot, but unless the surviving plant is healthy, they may struggle to prove enough credit when it's time for the mortgage to renew. And item number 5, check your beneficiaries. especially if you've remarried, and extra especially if you haven't redone your will since. We recently had the beneficiaries on a life insurance policy unexpectedly listed as the now deceased parents of a spouse after many years of continuing happy marriage. So it's important to make sure beneficiary designations are correct well in advance of a claim. Studies now show that widowhood has a similar cognitive effect and without support may actually accelerate Alzheimer's. So the risk here is that a beneficiary designation changed in the final hours could be challenged as lacking capacity, and if successful, the original beneficiary designation would stand. If you're age 56, the first highlight of your financial planning this year should be to get all your duckies lined up, because while losing your spouse shouldn't be your plan A, we're at the average age marker now. So treat it like it's real. Post-widowhood planning, part 2. What if it is real? There are 3 stages of survivor planning that we follow. Stage 1 is very transactional. We call it matters of urgency. Things like claiming on your life insurance and getting your late spouse's account rolled over into your name. The second stage is stabilizing income, making sure that cash flow in matches cash flow out, and projecting this out for the rest of your decades. The third phase is the transition of values, where we talk about intergenerational estate planning and charitable giving. Since stage number 1 is transactional, there isn't much for planning tips, but we'll start here at the 5 key planning considerations for stage 2, income stabilization. Item number 1, consider a spousal RSP contribution in your own name. As long as you are age 71 or younger, you can contribute to a spousal RSP in your own name in the year of death or in the first 60 days after the end of the year, which is basically the normal RSP contribution period. Your spousal RSP contribution would give your late spouse the tax deduction and use their RSP contribution room, but the RSP assets would be in your name. Later, you can merge the spousal RSP into your personal RSP just to keep things clean. Item number 2. Consider foregoing a rollover of RSP assets. Your RSPs and RIFs can roll to your spouse if you name them as a beneficiary, or alternatively for your RIF if you name them as a successor annuitant. What's the difference? A beneficiary inherits the money, whereas a successor annuitant inherits the account. Because the successor annuitant inherits the account on death, there's basically just a name change, and future withdrawals are now taxed to the survivor. But because a beneficiary inherits the money, they have a choice on whether to accept a spousal rollover and merge the funds into their own RSP or RIF, or to waive the spousal rollover. In that case, they inherit the money, but they don't inherit the tax deferral. The tax goes to the late spouse as if the RSP or RIF was withdrawn immediately before death. From a technical side, if an RSP rollover is accepted, a T4 RSP or T4 RIF is issued to you, the surviving spouse, in the amount of the full RSP or RIF account and an offsetting contribution receipt designated as 60L, which means it won't affect your RSP contribution room. What they do potentially affect, though, is your old age security. Because of the way your taxes are filed, the T4 RSP adds to your total income, and then old age security is calculated, and then the RSP contribution receipt is applied after. So you could actually be losing your old age security the year following the loss of your spouse. If you are named as a beneficiary and not as a successor annuitant, you have the option to forego the spousal rollover on the RSP or RIF assets, so your late spouse pays the tax and you preserve your old age security income. Item number 3, check into the survivor benefits of your spouse's health and dental plans. Sometimes, though not always, there's a 2-year survival period on an employer benefits package. It may not feel like a priority in the aftermath aftermath of a loss, but if you do have survivor benefits, you need to consider getting yourself in to see the dentist sooner rather than later. In case there are follow-ups, then you can get them all into the same survivor period. Item number 4. If you're self-employed, consider switching your income to dividends to avoid CPP contributions. Canada Pension Plan is unique among other pensions in that it has a severely restricted survivor benefit. CPP benefit rules changed in 2019 and are pretty complex, but generally speaking, the most that can be paid to a person who is eligible for the retirement pension and the survivor's pension is the maximum retirement pension. Plus, there's a flat amount of about $200. So, while there are other benefits to Canada Pension Plan to consider, like a disability benefit, you could be now contributing to CPP without much, if any, increase to your pension. Item number 5. If your spouse has not yet applied for their old age security benefits and they were over the age of 65, you can retroactively apply for 1 year of old age security benefits on their behalf after death. The retroactive old age security benefit can then be filed as a rights and things tax return, which is a separate tax return from their regular income tax return. We like rights and things tax returns because they get their own basic personal amount and their own age amount deductions. And because they're considered separately, the old age security benefit being received as a lump sum retroactive payment isn't impacted for clawback reasons by the original, by the income tax on their regular income tax return. Therefore, if you are age 56, the second key financial planning priority is to get all your people lined up. Check in with your investment advisor, your insurance advisor, your health and dental team, and your accountant. Make sure there aren't any loose ends that you're missing, and know that you have a team of professionals out there to support you. There are a lot of fairly technical planning pieces to consider in a very short time frame after a loss, and you're going to need to know who to turn to. For more information on planning for widowhood, or if you have any questions on working through the aftermath, speak to a registered financial planner today.